Hi, and thanks for joining me for this week's quick business tip. If you have ever had that kind of weird feeling where you, for some reason, start doubting your qualifications and your experience, and you are kind of afraid that people are going to find out that you're maybe not as good as they thought you were, this episode is for you. Obviously, here we are talking about imposter syndrome, and we are not talking about the faking it until you make it. We are talking about realizing your experience, your expertise, and the value that it brings to your clients, and really leaning into that and letting go of a lot of the self-doubt that can come with entrepreneurship. So let's get really honest for a second and talk about if anybody here has felt like a fraud, whether it was when you were first starting your business, when it just feels like everything is falling down around you, your head is nearly underwater when it comes to your business, even after 5, 10, 20 years of experience, or some other kind of inadequacy, self-doubt, that feeling that you're just not good enough. That is imposter syndrome in full force. And it's so common. It is one of the things that I feel like never really goes away. It doesn't matter how long you've been in business. I have had so many conversations with people who have high levels of success, running 6, 7, 8-figure companies. They've been in business for 10, 20 years, and they still have those days where imposter syndrome sneaks in. It's those days when you hear that little voice in your head saying that somebody's going to find out that I don't know what I'm doing. I really just got lucky with my business. I'm not really this talented. Or who am I to charge this much? I'm not good enough to charge those prices. Somebody else is doing it better than me. If any of these things sound familiar, it's not just about your self-esteem or self-confidence. Imposter syndrome is something that stops us from taking risks. It stops us from charging those high ticket prices, and it stops us from really fully owning our success and being the best version of ourselves. Now, when I first started my agency, I landed this really amazing client. I was so excited, and then I kind of had a freak out. I started thinking that I am not going to do well enough for them. They are a much larger client than I've ever worked with before. They're going to be disappointed in the results that I bring. And I spent a lot of time overthinking, over preparing, second guessing. And in the end, it was just completely unnecessary. I really probably could have got them results a little bit faster than I did, but in the end, it was 4 months in, and we had more than doubled their revenues in just that short period of time by looking at a lot of the low-hanging fruit that the marketing company that they had been using for years before they hired me had just sort of like left hanging there. And it seemed so obvious to me that this was where the money should come from that I started second guessing myself because the other agency hadn't done anything to start turning those potential clients into paying clients. And that had nothing to do, like the self-doubt had nothing to do with my expertise, the fact that this was the biggest client I'd ever had. The only thing that was causing this was that imposter syndrome. So, what do you do when you have those days that imposter syndrome is creeping in far more than you really need it to? How can you kind of fight it off? And it all comes down to really making a change with your mindset. So, you need to start reframing your thoughts. When you start hearing that inner critic a little more often and a little more loudly than you need to start hitting back, right? So if your inner critic is saying you're just not good enough, you need to say, hey, I am learning, I am growing, I am trying new things, I'm going to make mistakes, and that's okay. That one works for me pretty well. You also want to make sure that you have what I like to call a brag file. You want to keep track of your wins. You want to keep them handy. You want to be able to go back and review them to just sort of remind yourself how far you've come, how many great things you've done for your clients. And also in that brag file is where you want to put your clients' testimonies and feedback because it helps to hear those positive things from someone other than yourself. You also want to sort of focus more on your impact over like a lack of results. So sometimes I work with clients and they are charging by the hour or they are charging like a very low rate, but at least they're charging for the project, not based on the hour. And a lot of times, what they just haven't taken time to do is to stop and think about what kind of results this is getting your client. So I took 4 months with this client that I told you about earlier. I did what I felt were some pretty basic things for them. And with all of my years of experience built into those basic things, it turned into them more than doubling their revenue in a very, very short period of time. So my pricing reflects the value that they receive. Now, I still want my clients to receive 3 to 5 times a return on the investment when they purchase my services, but they shouldn't be receiving 30 or 50 times a return on the investment. So it's not about the time I spent, it's not about the things that I'm doing, it's about the value that my client gets out of it. And so when you focus on the value and the impact that you're giving your client instead of the amount of time that you are spending on them or the ease with which you are able to do things, you can kind of turn off that imposter syndrome. You also want to connect with other professionals who understand it. It's really difficult to have these type of conversations with people who are working a 9 to 5 job because even if they're like your best friend and they're super empathetic and they really want to understand, they just don't get it if they haven't been there themselves. And so surrounding yourself with other people who are entrepreneurs or busy professionals that really understand where you're coming from, have been where you are, have gone through a lot of the same thoughts and feelings that you have, that can be so beneficial. And don't forget to challenge yourself. Step out of your comfort zone every once in a while and try new things. And when you start racking up those small wins that are outside of your comfort zone, remember to add them back to your brag file. So let's talk about pricing because imposter syndrome has a lot of impact on how you price your services. And a lot of time it can keep you from charging what you know that you are really worth. But it's important to remember 4 things. Your price reflects your value. So low prices is just like a flashing red flag to your potential clients that you don't believe in yourself, you don't believe in the services that you provide, and you don't think that you can give them the type of value that they're really looking for. The second tip is to remember that your pricing is not about you. It's about changing your clients and transforming their businesses and the results that they're going to get out of working with you. The third tip is that if you practice these type of pricing and sales conversations with a friend or a business consultant, it will get a whole lot easier to start bringing up pricing. I know a lot of entrepreneurs struggle when it comes down to like laying out their services and then telling the customer what it's going to cost them. And yes, the role playing helps, but honestly, just sitting down with more potential customers and making more offers is going to have a huge impact. And the last tip is just take little steps. Um, Big jumps are scary, and scary things can oftentimes make us want to procrastinate them. And so, if you just start on taking these tiny little baby steps every single day, whether this is raising your rates gradually over time or going from making one offer a week to one offer a day, every tiny little step is going to help you build your confidence and make you feel better about the whole process. So just remember as you go through the rest of your week that you are not an imposter. You are talented, capable, and you have so much to offer. Don't let self doubt creep in and cover up the light that you are trying to shine to the whole world. If you are struggling with imposter syndrome and you want to have a conversation with somebody who gets it, I am happy to jump on a 20-minute call at no charge. There is a link in the show notes, and I would love to talk to you really soon. I'm Jennifer with Limitless Impact Agency. I'll see you next week.